Mesechus Kiddushin Daf Memches contains one Mishnah near the end of the daf. The first part of the daf is devoted to a continuation of the discussion of Mekadesh ben Milveh, that if somebody is Mekadesh a woman by being moichel money that she owes him, the Gemara will conclude that discussion. We'll get to the next Mishnah, which will talk about what happens when someone gives Kiddushin and the object that he promised is not quite what she receives. So we're in the middle of a discussion. The Gemara has just answered the Kasha, and the Gemara has established there's a machlokes tanoim. If somebody wants to mekadesh a woman by transferring a loan that someone else owes him to her, that is the right to collect an account that he has from someone else, he wants to transfer that collectible to her, is that considered to be Kiddushin or not? So we've said that it depends if we're discussing that the loan is in a shtar, he has a loan document, or it's just an oral loan. And we've seen this machlokes tanaim in each of those. The one wants to know what is the reasoning behind that machlokes tanaim. So as far as if it's in the document, we've already seen three pshatim. The Gemara now says the fourth pshat, which is that everyone agrees that if somebody sells a loan that he can collect, sells the right to collect that loan, everybody agrees he can then go ahead and be moichel the loan, and the person who bought the loan has nothing. He can't collect anything because the one who was originally supposed to collect it forgave it. The question is the woman reliant that he's not going to do that? Or does she assume he wouldn't do that to me? It wouldn't be moichel the loan that he was mekadesh me with, because now I'm his wife. He wouldn't just forgive it for someone else. And therefore she has smichas hadas and she's saimechan and the Kiddushin is good? Or do we say no, she has to be concerned that may happen, and therefore being mekadesh with something like that is never chal? Now, that's the Gemara's pshat, the fourth pshat that in that machlokes. Now, as far as machlokes when it's an oral transference, so the Gemara says the machlokes is whether something like that works on a loan of cash. So there's a halacha of Rav Huna in the name of Rav that you can transfer an account to someone else as long as all three people are there, the borrower, the lender, and the one who is taking over the loan. All three of them have to be there, and even if it's an oral loan, you can transfer it to the one who's receiving it as long as all three are there. The machlokes between these two tanaim is if you can say that on a loan or if it's only on a pikadon, only on an object which is actually existing that you're holding for him. You can say give it to him instead of to me. Meaning give it to a third party instead of to me who gave it to you. And here, the question is that also true in the case of a milveh, which is a cash loan? And that's what this machlokes is about. Can he transfer the ability to collect that cash loan to her, even though it's an oral loan or not? Okay, the Gemara now continues what it was in the middle of before, which is finding machlokes tanaim about the concept of mekadesh b'milvah. Again, this is referring to mekadesh b'milvah, where he's moichel her money that she owes him, her loan that she owes him. So the Gemara wants to show this is also machlokes tanaim. The Gemara brings a three-way machlokes about the case of hiskachi li b'shtar. He gives her a document, a shtar, and he says, be mekadesh to me with this shtar. The Gemara's assumption is that it's a shtar chayiv, it is a loan document. So the three opinions are Rabbi Meir, who says it does not work, she's not Mekudeshes, Rabbi Elazar, who says she is Mekudeshes, and the Chachamim, who say, irrespective of that, you can always be Mekudeshes with the value of the paper itself, or whatever it's written on. The Chachamim hold that she is not thinking only about what's written in the shtar, the meaning of the document, she's also paying attention to the value of the paper itself, and therefore if the paper is worth a shavar pruta, she could be Mekudeshes with that. The first two opinions don't hold that way. The content of the shtar has to be worth money to her, not just the paper itself, because she doesn't think about the paper. So the Gemara says, what is this case here? Obviously, it's talking about where he's mekadesh her with a shtar that she owes money to him, and he gives it back to her, and he says, I'm being moichel you with this. Why? Because what else could it be? We're assuming it's a shtar chayv, and if it's referring to a shtar chayv that someone else owes money to him, and he wants to transfer that loan to her to collect, we've seen in our last price that was brought on the last half, that Rav Meir there holds that it is mikudeshes with that. So it would be a contradiction between Rav Meir here, who says ain't mikudeshes, and there where it says mikudeshes. So that can't be what we're talking about. As a proof, we're talking about him being moichel alone that she owes him, and it's a machlokes tanaim. So this halacha should be machlokes tanaim, which will be a kash on Rav, who said that mekadesh b'milveh is ain't mikudeshes. Okay, so the Gemara answers, we're not talking here about a shtar chayv at all. We're talking about a shtar erison. As we learned in the first Mishnah in the Masechta, you can be mekadesh an isha by writing a shtar harei at mikudeshes li and giving it to her. Now, there's three different versions. The Gemara asks as to what is wrong with the star, that there's a machlekes about it. A normal star with normal star erison with no problem on it. She's mekudeshes. Here, there's something wrong with it, and there's three different explanations of what the machlekes might be. First explanation is that there are no signatures on it. And the machlekes is as follows: do you need signatures on a star to make it valid? This is based on the famous machlekes in Meseches Gittin, which we had at length between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Elazar, of Eidi Chasima Karti or Eidi Mesira Karti. According to Rabbi Meir, holds Eidi Chasima Karti, you need the signatures to make it valid, and therefore here where there are no signatures, it's no good. According to Rabbi Elazar, holds Eidi Mesira Karti, it's the giving of the star that makes it happen, the giving of the get, or the giving in this case of the star erison. The signatures are only there so we have a record of who the witnesses are in case we need them. Now there are Banan here who say that the value of the paper also counts. So Rashi has a question here what the right girsa is. The Gemara says they are misupik, whom to hold like. Rashi says they don't really have to be misupik. They're just holding that you could be miskadesh with the value of the shtar itself. Okay, says the Gemara, another potential explanation as to what could be wrong with this shtar. There's a machlekes on it. That it is written shalei lishma, and it's a machlekes over Reish Lakish's halacha. Reish Lakish asked, does a shtar erison have to be written lishma? Do you compare shtar to? Do you compare v'yatzav v'haisa? A shtar gittin to a shtar erison, just like shtar gittin has to be lishma, a shtar erison has to be lishma, or do you compare kiddushin kesef to kiddushin shtar, and just like kiddushin kesef doesn't have to be lishma, you don't have to make the kesef l'shem this isha, so kiddushin shtar also doesn't have to be l'shma. Reish Lakish himself answered, "V'yatz v'haisa is the ikar and it has to be l'shma," and that is the machlekes here in this Mishnah. Do we hold it has to be l'shma or not? Third pshat is that we're arguing about a machlekes between Rava, Ravina, and Rav Papa and Rav Sharavia. Rava and Ravina against Rav Papa and Rav Sharavia, discussing what happens if it's written shalim midaita, that is, it was written before she agreed and she doesn't know about it. Does it have to be written with her agreement, or could the shtar be written even before she agrees? Rava and Ravina say it's no problem if it's written before she agreed. Papa and Shravi say it has to be written after, and that's exactly the machlekes here as well. Okay, the Gemara now begins another attempt to try to find a machlekes tanaim about the sugya of mekadosh b'milveh. The Gemara brings a brisa that discusses a machlekes. So what happens if she has some gold and she gives it to a man and she says, make me jewelry, make me bracelets, nose rings, regular rings, and all these things, and she says, I will be mekudeshes to you once you make them. Now the Bryce records a machlekes, is she mekudeshes when he makes them? According to Rabbi Meir, yes. According to Chachamim, no. So the Gemara says, what do the machlekes can't be when he didn't give them to her yet, because how could Rabbi Meir say that she's mekudeshes? She didn't receive anything. So it's got to be referring to where he actually gave them to her. So what then is the machlekes about? So the Gemara wants to say machlekes must be about the money that she owes him for the work that she is not having to pay, that he's meichel that money that she owes him, and she wants to be mekudeshes with that. And this machlekes is therefore over the money that she owes him, and he's being meichel that. Is she mekudeshes or not? It's a case of mekadosh b'milveh. Machlekes over mekadosh b'milveh, whether it works or not. Now, there's another piece to add here, and that's at what point is a worker owed the money for what he makes? If he works on something, when is the payment due exactly? What is it owed? So the only way that this could be a case of mekadosh b'milveh is if it is a milveh, if it is a loan that she owed from before he gave it to her. If he owes it at the time, if she first owes it at the time that he gives it to her, so then he's not being meichel anything. He's giving it to her without taking payment for it. It's not a mechila on a pre-existing obligation. That's a regular kiddushin. So it's got to be the machlekes that the money is owed from before. Now there's a machlekes tanaim when a worker is owed the money for his work, and it's called yeshna l'schiris mitchila v'tzeif or ein l'schiris ela lebesayif. That is the work, and here we're assuming that someone was hired per hour. The work has to be paid as he's working. Each bit that he works, he's owed a drop for that, and therefore he's owed till he's finished. The entire amount is complete. Then, if you hold that way, then it's a pre-existing loan, and when she receives the jewelry without having to pay for it, that's a mechila on a pre-existing loan. So it must be that that's what we are referring to, and again, it's mekadosh b'milveh, and that's a proof that this is a machlekes tanaim about the concept of mekadosh b'milveh. Says the Gemara, no, there's three other ways of understanding this machlekes. First of all, everybody could agree that mekadosh b'milveh is not Mikudeshes, and this entire machlokes is about, is this a milva or not? Meaning, do we say Yesh al L'Sches M'Chil V'Tzayif, or do we say Ein al L'Sches El B'Tzayif? Do we see that the money is only owed when he gives it? And according to that opinion, that it's only owed when he gives it, it's not a milva. And according to the other opinion, that it's owed as soon as he performs the work, bit by bit, then it is a milva, and Mekadosh milva ain't a Mikudeshes, and therefore it's no good. That's the first shot. Second shot is that everybody agrees that Yesh al L'Sches M'Chil V'Tzayif, the money is owed all along. Here it's referring to not where he's paid per hour, but where he's paid per job. And the question is, when a worker improves the value of something that he's working on, at that point, who owns that increase in value? Who owns that value? That's what we call, is umun kaina b'shvach kli or not? If the umun is kaina b'shvach kli, he owns the increased value, and when he actually gives it back to the owner, he's giving that, and then the money is owed. If you say that, then this is a regular Kiddushin, there isn't any issue. If, however, you say that he doesn't own it, then the value is owed to him all along. It's like a loan that's owed to him. He never gets ownership of that. The original owner owns the improvement, and he has to pay for it, and therefore she, in this case, has to pay for the increase in value of the gold that she has, which is now turning into jewelry, and she owes that to him. That's a milva, and therefore would be a case of Mekadesh b'milva. However, the other pshat is that it's not Mekadesh b'milva at all, and that's why it works. But it's not. Everyone agrees that Mekadesh b'milva is no good. Now, the third pshat is to say that everyone agrees that the uman is not kaina in the shvach kli, and everyone agrees that schiris is paid from the beginning until the end. Here we're arguing about where he added on a little bit that belongs to him. That is, the worker put on a piece of his own material. And the question is as follows. The milva that she owes, she's not mekudeshes with, because we know Mekadosh milva is ain't mekudeshes, like we've said all along. The problem is what he's adding on, she could be mekudeshes with that as long as she's willing and she has in mind to be mekudeshes with that. We're not sure, though, what does she have in mind to be miskadeshes with? Is it with the milva, which doesn't work, or is it with that extra piece, which would work if she would know about it and agree to it? And the machlokes therefore is, do you say that when she gets a milva plus, she's having a mind on the milva, or she's having a mind on the plus? And that's what the machlokes is about. Now, the Gemara shows us this machlokes in another brisa, where we have a similar case where somebody wants to be mekadesh an isha with the work that he will do or has already done, and we have three cases. He says, be miskadeshes to me with the work that I did for you in the past, be miskadeshes to me with the work that I'm going to do for you in the future, or be miskadeshes to me with the work, and he adds a piece on that belongs to him. So, the work that he did in the past, everybody agrees is no good, because that's Mekadesh b'milva, and Mekadesh b'milva is no good. The work that I'm going to do in the future, that is a machlokes between Rabbi Nassan and the Tanakama, and that machlokes, the Gemara explains, is over Yesh l'Schiz M'Tchil V'Tzayif or not. If you hold Yesh l'Schiz M'Tchil V'Tzayif, then it's Mekadesh b'milva, because it's owed as it's being performed. If you hold Ein l'Schiz El B'Tzayif, then it only becomes due when he's giving it to her, and when he gives it to her, he's giving it to her without payment. So that's, like we said before, that is a regular Kiddushin, and that works. Now, the last opinion here, though, is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and he says that if he added on his own piece, she's Mekadeshes with that. And you see, the first two opinions didn't hold that way. So they have a machlokes on, is her intention to be miskadeshes with the milveh, the fact that she doesn't have to pay, or is her intention also to be miskadeshes with the piece that he added? And that's what we're saying is a machlokes in this brisa as well. And this concludes the Gemara, and that takes us to the next Mishnah. The Mishnah discusses what happens if he promised her something and it's not quite true. Machlokes will be on if it's an improvement over what he said, is she mikudeshes with that or not. So the Gemara brings three cases. One, he said, be mikudeshes to me with a cup of wine and it was honey, or vice versa, he said honey and it was wine, or he said with a dinar of silver and it turned out to be gold, or he said zav and it turned out to be silver. And the third case is if he said on the condition that I'm rich and it turns out he was poor, or on the condition that I'm poor and it turns out that he was rich. So the Tanakama says none of these are good. It doesn't matter if the mistake is for her benefit, is an improvement, or it's not an improvement, or it's worse. Either way, she's not Mekudeshes because that's not what she was expecting. Rav Shimon says if it is degrading quality, it's not Mekudeshes. If it is improvement in quality, it is Mekudeshes. And the Gemara begins by bringing three contradictory brises as to what is the halacha if somebody is Mekadesh a woman with a cup of something. So the first brisa says if he says, be miskadesh me with this cup, he's referring to the cup and what's in it, and both belong to her. Second one is referring to the cup and not what's in it. And only the cup belongs to her, not what's in it. And the third one says that it's referring to what's in it and not the cup. Three contradictory brises. What does he mean? What does she own? So it says not a kasha. It depends what was in the cup. If it was water in the cup, he definitely meant the cup itself, not the water in it. If it was wine in the cup, people usually drink the wine and give back the cup. It's not the ikar there. He definitely meant the wine and not the cup. If there was fish brine in the cup, you need to be able to keep the fish brine for a while, so therefore you take the cup with the fish brine, and that's the brisa that's saying he's referring to both of them. Okay, now the Gemara begins analyzing the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who said that if it's an improvement over what he said, she is Mekadeshes. So Gemara asks, that doesn't fit with the Mishnah. We had a Maseches about Baso, which says that an improvement is not an improvement for everybody. Sometimes someone wants the thing of lesser value. That case is referring to where somebody sold a barrel of wine, and the Brisa says that if the wine turned out to be vinegar, or if he sold vinegar and it turned out to be wine, either way, either member can back out of the deal, because the person who bought vinegar and received wine, who said he wanted wine? Maybe he wanted vinegar. There's some people who want vinegar, even though wine is more valuable, somebody wanted, and therefore he has a right to retract from this deal. So here also, just because she was promised a dinar of silver and she received a dinar of gold, how do you know that's what she wanted? Maybe she needs a dinar of silver. So the Gemara answers that Rav Simi Bar Ashi said, I found Abaye who was explaining this to his son, and he changed the meaning of this Mishnah a little bit. And he said it's not referring to where she was the one who was tricked. She was the one who got misinformation. It's referring to where he ended up with not quite what he was expecting. And that's it. He made a shliach, and he said to the shliach, go lend me please a dinar of kesef, a silver dinar, and go be mekadesh a woman for me. And that guy went and lent him a dinar of gold, and used the dinar of gold, the gold dinar, to be mekadesh. So the machlekes is, why did he say a silver dinar? Is it because he didn't want to spend the gold dinar, and he wanted to spend less, and therefore he's makbid, and therefore it's not mekadeshes? Or is he just trying to make it easier for the shliach? He's saying, you don't have to spend so much on me, but certainly he would be even happier to use a dinar zav to make the Kiddushin even more chashuv. Now, the Gemara rejects this pshat because the Mishnah is clearly not referring to fooling the man. It's clearly referring to where the trickery was on the woman. And the Gemara brings three reasons. First of all, it says, Hiskad Shili. He said to her, be miskadeshes to me. If it was a shliach, it should have said Hiskad Shiloi, be miskadeshes to him. Second thing is where it says Hitaha, she was tricked. It should be Hitahu, he was tricked. The third thing it says that it was found to be silver. Nimtza, it wasn't Nimtza, it was silver the entire time. So therefore the Gemara rejects this shot of Abai, and Rava says I, and the lion of the group, Arisha Chabur, which the Gemara says is Rav Chia bar Avin, they said that the explanation is as follows. She made a shliach lekabbalah. She said to her shliach, go and receive Kiddushin for me from this man who said, be miskadeshes to me with a dinar of silver. So she said to the shliach to expect a silver dinar, and he went, and he came, and he got a dinar of gold. And on that, the machlekes is, was she makbid, she only wanted silver, and that's why she told her shliach to take silver? Or was she just saying, it doesn't have to be gold, I'm okay with silver, but certainly she would be okay with gold, why not? Now, the only problem, therefore, is why does it say that it was found to be silver? It was found to be gold. If it was the entire time it was gold, so the rest is because he got it wrapped up, and he didn't see what it was until he gave it to her and she unwrapped it.